After our engagement, Kevin Lee's family sent a formal letter demanding that I return the $10,000 dowry they had given. As if that wasn't humiliating enough, they actually filed a complaint with the New York Police Department accusing me of extorting them over what they called an outrageous engagement gift. I remember staring at the document in disbelief, my hands trembling as though I had been caught stealing from strangers, rather than agreeing to marry their son. This was 2025, not 1825. And who in America still believed women should be bartered for money? I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. To me, it felt absurd, insulting, and above all, cruel. We loved each other, or at least I thought we did. $10,000 was not the price of my dignity, nor was it the value of my commitment. And yet here I was painted as some kind of con artist dragged into the ugly theatrics of a family who could not accept that their son had chosen me. Faced with their arrogance, I stayed calm. I told them I would return the money if that was what they wanted. My words seemed to embolden his mother, Mrs. Linda Lee, who smirked with the kind of satisfaction that made my stomach twist. She leaned forward and said with a patronizing tone, "Once you give us back the dowry, you can go ahead and give us 2 grandsons. That will make life so much easier for everyone." For a moment I froze, then laughter escaped me, sharp and bitter. Marry into the circus, bear children. For this family, I would rather live alone forever than surrender myself to such entitlement. That same night, instead of sulking, I organized a grand ceremony in Manhattan, not for celebration, but for returning the so-called dowry. If they wanted a show, I would give them one, and the very next day, Kevin's entire family became the laughingstock of social media. Videos and memes of the family who demanded their dowry back spread across Instagram and TikTok like wildfire, and strangers from every corner of the internet ridiculed them. As all of that unfolded online, I was at a dealership ready to finalize paperwork for the $30,000 car I had promised as part of our engagement agreement. Before the engagement, Kevin and I had agreed clearly his family would present $10,000 as a symbolic dowry, and I would reciprocate with a car worth much more. On paper, it seemed fair, respectful, and straightforward. I thought we were building something equal. I thought we were on the same side. But just as I was about to sign the final forms, my phone rang. It was Officer James Miller from NYPD calling to inform me that a criminal complaint had been filed. Fraud, extortion, theft. The words hit me like stones hurled through glass. For a long second, I could not breathe, could not even speak. Was he talking about me? I stammered into the phone, insisting there must be some mistake. I had always followed the law. I was a model citizen. What theft? What extortion? But the officer calmly read my full legal name and social security number. Worse, he mentioned the exact figure, $10,000. My knees felt weak. The world spun. Slowly, I turned to Kevin, searching his face for clarity. My voice cracked as I asked, "This is about the $10,000, isn't it? Did your parents do this? Are they really dragging me into a criminal case?" He avoided my eyes, shifting nervously, and for the first time in 3 years of loving him, I felt a shadow of suspicion crawl across my chest. He forced a laugh and said, "No, baby, it's probably nothing, just some confusion. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Just sign the car papers. Isn't that why we came here?" Before I could argue, he snatched the phone from my hand and walked off in a rush, muttering into the receiver. I sat frozen, my pen hovering over the dotted line, unable to shake the chill spreading through me. Something was terribly wrong. Curiosity and instinct pushed me to follow him quietly. In the hallway, I caught his voice, frustrated, sharp. Not the gentle man I thought I knew. "Mom, didn't we agree to hold off on the dowry thing for now? I haven't gotten the car out of her yet. If she starts doubting us, I'll lose everything. Just relax, I'll handle it." His words sliced into me. My breath caught, my heart dropped. He wasn't defending me, he was conspiring with them, stalling them just long enough to secure the car before I realized what was happening. I pressed my back to the wall, my palms slick with sweat, every illusion I had about Kevin unraveling with each syllable. When he disappeared out of earshot, I walked back into the office, my face pale, but my resolve hardening. I picked up the pen and signed the contract this time, striking out his name completely. Every page bore only my name, Vivian Carter. I paid in full, arranged for insurance, and claimed the car as mine alone. If Kevin truly loved me, it would not matter. If he was playing me, then at least I would not hand him a $30,000 trophy for his betrayal. I told myself that love was about trust, but survival demanded boundaries. Half an hour later, Kevin strolled back into the showroom, pretending as though nothing had happened. He saw the paperwork neatly stacked and let out a dramatic sigh of relief. His grin was boyish, triumphant, and sickeningly self-satisfied. He reached for the contract, eager to confirm his name was on it. "Babe, you're amazing," he said, wrapping his arm around my shoulder. "I've wanted a car of my own for so long. You really are the best." My smile was wide but hollow. I placed my hand gently on his, pressing it back down before he could flip the pages. "No time for that now," I said sweetly. "They're about to deliver the keys. We can look at paperwork later." He bought it, his grin widening as he rushed off to admire the car. As soon as he turned his back, I tucked the contract into my bag, my heart pounding. Then in a voice casual enough to pass as innocent curiosity, I asked, "By the way, what was all that about earlier? Was it really a fraud complaint? You were gone so long I was worried." His smile faltered, his jaw tightening for just a second. He rubbed his forehead and forced a chuckle. "Nothing serious, just some technicality. They want you to stop by the station, but it's no big deal." My chest burned with rage. No big deal. Being accused of fraud by my future in-laws, dragged to the NYPD, humiliated in public. He thought that was nothing serious. I saw it then, the way he squirmed, the way his eyes refused to meet mine. The man I thought I would spend my life with was standing shoulder to shoulder with his family, building a trap around me. And all the while, he still wanted me to hand him a car with my name signed neatly under his. I refused to waste any more time on doubt. With my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles whitened, I drove straight to the New York Police Department. The moment I pushed open the heavy glass doors, the sound hit me like a wave. It was Mrs. Linda Lee, my would-be mother-in-law, her voice shrill and echoing through the lobby. "It's 2025, she wailed at the officers, her arms flailing. "Who still forces a dowry to get married? Isn't this against the law? These kids are in love. $10,000 is not worth ruining my family over. Officers, you must help me get justice. This is my blood and sweat money." Before anyone could calm her, she had clutched at one officer's leg and dropped to the ground, rolling and thrashing like a child denied candy. Her hair in disarray, her cheeks blotched with red fury. The officers looked exhausted, shifting uncomfortably clearly, caught between professional patience and outright disbelief. One of them muttered something about disturbing the peace, while gently trying to pull her up. When their eyes caught mine, I saw an odd flicker of relief. They hurried over as if I were a lifeline. Officer James Miller spoke first, his tone carefully neutral. "Miss Carter, here's the situation. We received a formal complaint stating that you accepted an illegal engagement dowry, the amount of $10,000. Can you confirm this? If so, we may need you to cooperate in returning the funds." Before I could even part my lips, Mrs. Lee shot up, saliva flying as she shouted, Yes, she still has the money sitting in her account. It's ours and she knows it." I stood frozen, my mind reeling. Every word she spoke made sense individually, but strung together it was like an absurdist play. My future in-laws people, I had agreed to join as family, had dragged me into a police station not even 24 hours after our engagement party, accusing me of extortion. Extortion over a dowry we had all agreed upon. I felt laughter bubbling up, but it came coated with disbelief, with rage, with heartbreak. Extortion, fraud, theft, that was their story. Turning slowly to Kevin, I forced my lips into something resembling a smile. My voice trembled, but held. "Didn't we agree on the dowry from the beginning? Your whole family was there. No one objected. Could this just be a misunderstanding? Did your parents confuse something?" Kevin's eyes darted away from mine, his body stiff, his jaw twitching as though he had been caught lying. He placed a hand on my shoulder, giving a pat that felt rehearsed, then forced a chuckle. Baby, come on, that was just to make you happy. We're in love, aren't we? It wasn't like an arranged marriage with matchmakers. We don't need dowries. My family isn't wealthy, but once we're married, I'll treat you well. Isn't that enough? His words dripped with practiced charm, his confidence growing, as though each sentence absolved him of shame. I stared at him, really stared as if meeting a stranger for the first time. Only a week ago, he had stood in front of my parents, hand raised like a solemn oath, promising to put me first, swearing his family would never mistreat me. I remembered 3 years of moments that had felt like love. The night he carried me nearly 2 miles to a clinic, when I twisted my ankle the mornings he woke before dawn, to make me breakfast the countless evenings he picked me up after work, rain soaking through his jacket, insisting it didn't matter as long as I was dry. I remembered how he rushed to buy me food at 3 in the morning just because I had whispered a craving. For years, I convinced myself that this was love, that small acts of kindness equaled devotion. But standing in that precinct, I understood the truth that burned like acid in my chest. Goodness in men can be the cheapest currency. It can vanish in an instant. It can be spent only when convenient. I had mistaken persistence and gestures for genuine loyalty. In reality, those things were fleeting, fragile, shallow. The truth was more brutal. In 3 years of dating, we had split every bill. He had never once surprised me with an expensive gift. Meanwhile, I had given him countless presents, shoes that cost a week of my salary, a designer watch he wore proudly, birthday gifts that lit up his entire family. His parents had accepted luxury items from me without hesitation, smiling as though generosity was my obligation. I excused it all, telling myself Kevin came from less, and I couldn't demand equality when our backgrounds were so different. That was why I kept the dowry light symbolic, only $10,000, not a fortune by any means. I thought I was being fair, understanding, even loving. But to them, that sum might as well have been a ransom. In their eyes, I wasn't their future daughter-in-law. I was a thief holding their lives hostage. I looked at Mrs. Lee, her chest puffed up with triumph, and at Kevin standing silent at her side, neither defending me nor correcting her lies. A cold smile curled across my lips. In that moment, I knew that every illusion had shattered. I wasn't their cherished bride-to-be. I was their enemy, their scapegoat, their convenient villain. And Kevin, my Kevin, the man I had once trusted with my heart, stood there complicit, pretending that the vows he whispered meant nothing. I could not hold back the bitter laugh that rose from my chest. So this was his plan all along. He agreed to let his parents drag me to the police, and he even waited until I finished buying the car before letting me know. Was he worried I might change my mind if I realized the trap too soon? Kevin's face tightened at my words, and when he saw he had no excuse left, he snapped, his voice rising with anger. What does this have to do with the car? Stop trying to deflect, Vivian. Are you really that materialistic? Your family isn't struggling. You don't even need that $10,000. Would you really refuse to marry me over something so small? At that moment, everything fell into place. The car was already mine, the engagement had been sealed, and he thought he had me exactly where he wanted me. But there was one thing Kevin Lee never understood. The one thing I despised more than anything was being manipulated. If he and his family thought they could squeeze benefits out of me without consequence, they were about to learn how expensive their game would become. I smiled faintly, deliberately, casual, my voice cool as ice. Why are you so anxious? Do you think I don't know how to do the right thing? If it's just about returning the dowry, fine. I'll give it back right now. With those words, I took the pen and signed the reconciliation papers, right there at the precinct, promising to return every dollar of the $10,000. Mrs. Linda Lee blinked, caught off guard, her mouth opening and closing as if she couldn't believe her victory had come so easily. She leaned closer, lowering her voice in a sharp, condescending hiss. Don't you dare play tricks. Once you say you'll return it, you'd better follow through. And don't forget that car was your so-called engagement gift you gave it willingly. We didn't spend a dime and you won't get it back. Once something's given, it's gone. My pen paused mid-stroke. Slowly I lifted my head and looked at her with a smile that carried no warmth, only a depth that made her flinch. Oh really? If gifts can't be returned, then why exactly are you demanding back a dowry you yourselves gave? Her face froze instantly. Her tongue caught between hypocrisy and shame. She had no answer. When the paperwork was done, Kevin approached me grinning as though all his troubles had evaporated. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, leaving his smile stiff and awkward. He rubbed his palms together nervously, then slipped back into that manipulative, coaxing tone. Baby, don't worry. I'll never forget what you've done for me. Once we're married, your dad can help us with the down payment on a house, and with your salary too, we'll be fine. Life with me will be good. You'll see marrying me is the best investment you'll ever make. His words slithered around me like chains, but I refused to answer. I simply picked up my bag and stood silent. Mrs. Lee sneered, her disdain curling in her voice. Look at that attitude, already disrespecting your husband before the wedding. What kind of upbringing is that? She grabbed Kevin's arm, tugging him outside with a bright eagerness. Together they rushed to see the car I had just bought. And there it was, gleaming under the streetlights right outside the precinct. Mrs. Lee gasped with delight, rushing forward like a child at Christmas. She ran her hands across the paint, patting the hood as if she owned it, her laughter sharp and triumphant. Then she whipped out her phone, recording herself like a proud queen. Look at this, everyone. My son's new car. Our family's new car. Isn't it gorgeous? Isn't my boy incredible? Her cackling filled the air, and I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing outright. The urge to pull out the registration papers and shove them in her face was overwhelming, but I forced myself to wait. No, it wasn't time yet. The higher I let them climb, the harder they would fall. She finished her little performance and quickly posted the video to Instagram, sharing it proudly with the family group chat. Her smugness radiated off her, her mood soaring, and for a moment she even softened her tone toward me. But she couldn't resist tossing in a lecture, her voice dripping with condescension. Vivian, you're such a sensible girl. Once you're married, remember to care for Kevin. Give him 2 sons and stop dreaming about enjoying too much for yourself. A woman's duty is her family. That's how life gets better. Then she thrust her phone back into her purse and turned her eyes on me with expectation. All right then, transfer the $10,000 right now. I'll keep it safe for you. I took a step back, folding my arms, keeping my gaze cold and unflinching. Don't worry, you'll get your money, but not right now. We had an engagement ceremony, and if the dowry is to be returned, it must be done formally in front of both families. Otherwise, outsiders might think I ran off with the cash, and that would be inappropriate. Her smile evaporated. Her face darkened as her finger shot up at me, trembling with fury, her spit flying as she shouted, "What's that supposed to mean? It's just returning the money, not a wedding banquet. You want a party to give us back our own money? How shameless can you be?" I lifted one eyebrow, my lips curling into a cold smirk. Oh, I see. When you demanded the dowry back, that wasn't shameless. But when I suggest returning it properly in public, suddenly it's disgraceful. Interesting. Your standards are very selective, Mrs. Lee. I let my arms tighten across my chest, my stance rigid with refusal. The money will be returned, but only if both families are present. Otherwise, there will be no transfer. That's final. Mrs. Linda Lee's face darkened instantly, her fury boiling over as she jabbed a finger at me, spit flying with every word. What do you mean? It's just returning the dowry. And you still want to throw some kind of grand party? Aren't you ashamed? You must be out of your mind. I only shrugged my lips, curling into a cold smile. Oh, is that so? When you demanded the money back, that wasn't shameful. But when I suggest returning it properly in public, suddenly it's disgraceful. Mrs. Lee, your family's sense of honor is a masterpiece of double standards. Either way, let me be perfectly clear. Unless both families are present, the money won't leave my hands. I folded my arms across my chest, my eyes sharp, and my stance made it clear there was no room left for negotiation. Kevin saw his mother's rage spiraling and quickly pulled her aside, whispering frantically, "Mom, just let her do it. This will actually make us look good." Imagine everyone watching as I take a wife without spending a dime. And on top of that, we walk away with a car. People will call me smart, capable, a man who knows how to win. The calculation in his words made my skin crawl, but it worked. Mrs. Lee's expression softened, her pride stoked, and she finally nodded, though reluctantly. So that night, I gave them exactly what they thought they wanted. I organized a spectacle at a banquet hall in Manhattan, complete with drummers and trumpeters, an announcement echoing down the streets. Congratulations to the Lee family. After the engagement, they dragged their future daughter-in-law to the NYPD, demanding a dowry refund of $10,000. What a joyous occasion indeed. Let's celebrate, let's celebrate. The absurdity of it all spread like wildfire. Curious strangers crowded the sidewalks, whispering to each other, shaking their heads. $10,000 and they called the cops. That family is insane. Imagine getting engaged and then demanding the money back like marrying without paying a cent. Who would ever marry into a family like that? The murmurs grew into open laughter, and the Lee family wilted under the weight of public ridicule. Mrs. Lee's cheeks flushed crimson, her chin trembling, and she tugged at Kevin's sleeve, urging me to end things quickly. But I only smiled, savoring their discomfort. If they thought this was unbearable, they had no idea what was still to come. Later that evening at the Thanksgiving-style dinner in New Jersey, with both families present, I stood tall and ceremoniously transferred the $10,000 back into Kevin's account. His parents lit up, their grins wide, their pride swelling as they whispered boasts to the relatives around them. They thought they had won, that the money was theirs again, that they had humiliated me. But just as the room settled into smug chatter, the large screen at the back of the hall flickered to life. Suddenly, video clips filled the room, edited with sharp humor, replaying every word and every gesture from that afternoon when Mrs. Lee had wailed at the police station. Her voice blared her accusations on repeat. "It's 2025. Dowries are illegal. That car was given willingly. Our family didn't spend a dime. Once something is given, you can't take it back." The irony was brutal, the hypocrisy undeniable, and every repetition was like a slap, echoing through the hall. The room fell silent, the only sound the mocking replay of her own contradictions. Relatives averted their eyes, cheeks burning with secondhand shame. Strangers who had slipped in to watch pulled out their phones, recording snapping pictures, posting live updates to Instagram and TikTok. By the next morning, the Lee family was infamous, trending across social media. Headlines mocked them: groom's family calls police, on fiancé over $10,000 dowry. Memes plastered their faces, commentators tore them apart. Mrs. Lee nearly fainted, cursing me through tears, calling me a curse, a disaster, a woman destined to destroy them. "If you marry into this family, you'll drag us all into the grave," she wailed. I widened my eyes in mock innocence, my voice soft and laced with feigned surprise. "Marry into your family? Who ever said I was still marrying?" The hall went silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy. Not only Mrs. Lee, but Kevin himself gaped at me, his expression blank with shock. "Vivian, what do you mean? We're engaged. We're supposed to be one family now. Why make such a scene? It's just a dowry refund. You didn't need to go this far. You owe my mother an apology." His words were so absurd, I nearly laughed in his face. Even now, after everything he thought, this was nothing more than me throwing a tantrum, as though betrayal, humiliation, and legal accusations could be brushed aside. "What do I mean?" I shot back, my eyes blazing. "I mean exactly what I said. If you can't process plain English, maybe rub some oil into your brain to get it working. The dowry has been returned. That chapter is closed. But marriage, forget it. I'm canceling this engagement right here, right now." The room gasped. I reached into my purse, pulled out the car keys, and turned to leave. Kevin stammered, his voice breaking, his hands shaking as he pointed at me. You can't just walk away. Stop. Don't go. We're engaged. The invitations are already sent. You can't just call it off. Do you realize what this does to me, to my reputation? If you cancel, you'll regret it. Do you hear me? You'll regret this. Kevin's face twisted with rage, his voice breaking into a shout. The engagement is set, the invitations are printed, and now you say you can just cancel it. What about my reputation? If you dare call this off, do you think I'll let you walk away so easily? My fist clenched at my sides, the last thread of patience inside me snapping. At first, I only wanted to embarrass his family a little to teach them a small lesson, but now I saw their shamelessness knew no limits. Oh, so when you dragged me to the NYPD demanding your precious dowry back, that wasn't humiliating. But now when I cancel the wedding, suddenly it's about saving face. My voice dripped with contempt. Fine then, Kevin. If you're not satisfied, I'll make it official. I'll call the police myself. Without hesitation, I dialed 911. The officers arrived with remarkable speed, but when they recognized the Lees again, their weary expressions said it all. Mr. Lee one sighed. What is it this time? The dowry issue was already settled, wasn't it? Why are you filing another complaint? Mrs. Linda Lee threw herself at their feet, clutching their legs, tears and snot streaking down her face. Officers, you must help us. We just wanted our money back, and now she's breaking the engagement too. Isn't that fraud against marriage itself? Isn't it illegal to betray a family like this? The officers exchanged looks, then one turned to me with calm professionalism before glancing back at the Lees. His voice edged with disbelief. Let me understand this. You didn't want to pay the dowry, but you still expect her to marry into your family. You want both things at once. Kevin bobbed his head furiously, desperate, like a man drowning. Yes, exactly. Dowries shouldn't exist in the first place, but marriage is already decided. She has to be my wife. The officer's brows arched. His tone was sharp but patient. Mr. Lee, Miss Carter has already returned the full $10,000. As for marriage, that is her personal freedom. Not even the police can force her to wed. If you or your family continue to harass her, that will constitute harassment and a violation of the law. At the word violation, both Kevin and his mother recoiled, finally releasing their grip. Their eyes burned holes through me, their glares saturated with hatred and resentment. But for the moment, they stepped back. The police left soon after, and the mask Kevin had worn for years shattered completely. He leapt onto the hood of my new car, clinging to it with a manic desperation, his eyes wild. You want to end the engagement? Fine. I can find another woman easily, but this car, you'll never drive it away. This is my engagement gift, my dowry return. My name is on it, so it belongs to me. His voice cracked into a hysterical shriek, his fists pounding on the hood like a deranged child clutching a stolen toy. His mother stormed forward, shoving me hard enough to make me stumble. That's right, my son is correct. You are no longer part of this family, so the car is obviously his property. Don't you dare think you can take it. I drew in a long, steady breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Then with deliberate precision, I opened the driver's side door, pulled out the thick envelope containing the paperwork, and held it high in front of their faces. My voice was low and cutting. Open your eyes and look closely. Here's the registration. Here's the sales contract. I am the buyer. I paid every cent. My name is on every line. Your son's name does not appear anywhere. I stepped closer, thrusting the papers so near they could see the ink of my signature. Do you see it now? Or should I read it aloud for you? Their faces drained of color instantly. Mrs. Lee's lips trembled, her eyes darting back and forth. Kevin's mouth fell open, his expression a grotesque mix of shock and betrayal, as if I had stolen something that was rightfully his. You tricked me, Vivian, he spat, his voice trembling with rage. You lied. You said you'd put it under my name. You're nothing but a scheming, manipulative woman. I laughed, sharp and merciless. Oh, Kevin, and when your family demanded back the dowry, didn't you also say it was mine? Didn't you tell me it was a gift? Funny how your definition changes whenever it suits you. Hypocrisy runs deep in your blood. But even with the evidence in their faces, neither Kevin nor his mother gave up. They dropped to the ground right in front of the car, sprawling dramatically, pounding the pavement with their fists and howling like cornered animals. "If you don't split the car with us, you're not going anywhere, you hear me, not 1 inch." The spectacle drew stares from passers-by, whispers rising into murmurs. Heat flared in my chest, a fury I could no longer restrain. Enough was enough. I pulled out my phone, opened my messaging app, and with a steady hand, I sent my live location to a group of reporters who had been begging for interviews ever since the dowry scandal went viral. I typed only one line, breaking news. "Come now," I hit send, my fingers steady, my smile cold. If the Lees wanted to play dirty, then I would show them just how high the stakes could rise. But this time was different. If Kevin and his mother wanted to play dirty, I had no hesitation in dragging them into the spotlight. Reporters had been circling for weeks, hungry for another scandal after the dowry fiasco. All it took was one text from me, and within 10 minutes, a swarm of journalists descended on the scene. Cameras, rolling microphones shoved forward with ruthless precision. "Excuse me," one asked firmly. Microphone pointed directly at their faces. "Are you Kevin Lee and Mrs. Linda Lee? Reports say that after your engagement, you filed a complaint against your future daughter-in-law with the NYPD and forced her to return a $10,000 dowry. Now you're pressing her again. Why do you want both the money and the bride? Is this a publicity stunt, or did it really happen? $10,000 was that sum? Really so unbearable for your family? And this car records show Vivian Carter paid for it herself. Do you have any intention of returning it?" The barrage of questions left Kevin mute, his chin tucked into his chest, refusing to look up. His silence only made him appear guiltier. But Mrs. Lee snapped like a cornered animal, her voice rising, her hands swatting at the cameras. "Stop filming us, stop recording, you people don't know anything. Dowries are a corrupt tradition, girls who demand them should be thrown in jail. We did nothing wrong, we're fighting for justice. The government should be giving us awards, not criticism. If any of you dare record us again, I'll sue every last one of you for violating our privacy." She lunged forward, shoving at the reporters. One nearly stumbled to the pavement. But instead of retreating, the journalist leaned in harder eyes, gleaming questions, sharper, deliberately, provoking her temper. Their professionalism was astonishing. They knew exactly how to draw out the ugliest truth. Onlookers stopped to watch, shaking their heads, some slipping away in disgust at the embarrassing display. No one wanted to be associated with such a spectacle. Kevin realized the scene was spiraling into disaster. With desperation in his eyes, he covered the nearest lens with his hand, dragging his mother away. "Forget the car, Mom," he muttered, his voice cracking. "Stop filming, just leave." Before retreating, he turned and shot me a venomous glare, his eyes promising vengeance. I simply lifted my shoulders in a shrug, my expression calm, almost bored. What else could they do to me now? Their tricks had been laid bare. Unsurprisingly, the meltdown went viral within hours. Clips of Mrs. Lee screaming at reporters climbed straight to the trending page. Last time, people online treated the drama as cheap entertainment. But this time, they were furious. Her words had insulted every woman watching. Across TikTok, Instagram, and news sites, the outrage flared. A family that humiliates women demands money back and calls it justice. Who would ever marry into such madness? The Lees had become a national joke, their reputation crumbling in real time. Panic finally set in. Kevin began bombarding me with messages, alternating between threats and pleas. "Vivian, you'd better issue a public correction. If you don't, you'll regret it." I read them once, smirked, and hit block without hesitation. He thought he could intimidate me into silence. Not a chance. Let him howl into the void. But Kevin wasn't done. The very next day, he tried to seize control of the narrative. On his social media page, he posted a dramatic statement with a headline. Designed to grab attention, shocking truth, Vivian Carter is obsessed with money, 3 years together, and she never paid a dime. The sheer audacity nearly made me choke on my coffee. Obsessed with money from him. What did he even have worth coveting? My curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked. What I saw was so absurd, I laughed out loud. He had uploaded a detailed spreadsheet of our relationship expenses, every single item accounted for, with petty precision. A $1 bottle of water, a $3 sandwich, a $2 subway ride. The most expensive line was a $200 t-shirt he bought for himself, yet somehow he counted it as money spent on me because I once said it looked nice. 3 years of dating and the grand total came to just over $3,500. Broken down, it meant he spent about $3 a day. $3 for love, for companionship, for building a future. If this was his version of being bled dry, I wondered how he survived adulthood at all. The grand total Kevin claimed he had spent over 3 years of dating me was exactly $3,500. Broken down, it was barely $3 a day. If that counted as gold digging, then I truly had no words. Yet somehow Kevin managed to cast himself as the victim. He filmed a shaky video and posted it online with a pitiful tone. Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Lee. Today I want to share the truth. Everyone calls me stingy, but I'm the one who has been deceived. For 3 years, Vivian Carter never spent a dime. I carried all the expenses on my shoulders. Tell me what kind of man willingly spends more than $3,500 on a woman before marriage. I gave her my heart. I planned for our future, and she betrayed me over a dowry. She smeared my family's name, made us the target of public ridicule. Please don't be fooled, she's a manipulative gold digger with a hidden agenda. I have published every detail of our expenses. My conscience is clear. He expected sympathy, maybe even applause. But instead, the internet exploded with laughter. Comments poured in by the thousands. Wait, she's a gold digger for drinking $1 bottled water and riding a $2 subway. Sounds like he lost money dating her. Another wrote, 3 years together, $20 a week. How did she survive on that? This is the ultimate level of frugality. The mocking only grew. So that $200 t-shirt he bought for himself counts as money spent on her. He wore it, not her. Unless she's renting his closet, that's his expense. The most humiliating moment came when one user bluntly commented, "That $200 shirt, seriously? Are you saying that counts as money spent on your girlfriend?" Kevin actually replied. His response was grave, as though delivering a sermon. "Yes, she once told me it looked nice, so I bought it to wear for her. Doesn't that count as being for her sake?" The entire thread froze for a beat, then collapsed into chaos. Memes erupted instantly, so by that logic, going to the bathroom is also for her benefit. Should that be added to the bill too? I laughed until my stomach hurt. This was generosity in his eyes. This was his grand sacrifice. Kevin Lee's pettiness had crossed into the realm of comedy beyond even my wildest imagination. Of course, a handful of men tried to defend him. Okay, maybe he's stingy, but it takes two to tango. You can't blame him alone. If she broke off the engagement, shouldn't she at least return what he spent? Their logic was laughable. Return what he spent? I snorted so furious I could barely type. You think one hand can't clap? Let me slap him across the face and see if it makes a sound. Kevin, ever the opportunist, pinned one such comment to the top of his post and liked it, fueling a chorus of bitter voices demanding that I pay him back. A small mob of disgruntled men even started taking bets on whether I would cave. They thought they had me cornered, but they underestimated me yet again. Pay him back, of course I would on my own terms. But first I would lay everything bare. Kevin wasn't the only one who kept records. I too had receipts, every transfer, every gift, every expense that kept his sorry life afloat for 3 years. That very same day, I sat down and crafted my rebuttal. My post was titled with a bombshell headline, "Shocking Kevin Lee, the man who lived off a woman for 3 years." I wrote with biting sarcasm. Hello everyone, this is Vivian Carter. At first, I wanted to end this quietly. The money I spent on him, I was willing to chalk it up as charity to a stray dog. But some people insist on digging, calculating every penny, so let's be fair. Below is the list of everything I spent on Kevin during our 3-year relationship. Note, this doesn't even include shared expenses. This is just the money I spent directly on him and his family. The coins he spent I will gladly repay in full. But first, in front of all of you as witnesses, let him pay back what he owes me. Then I attached the proof: bank transfers, invoices, receipts, photographs of gifts, all neatly itemized. In my post, I listed everything clearly, every dollar with receipts attached. A birthday gift for Kevin, $800. A designer handbag I gave his mother, $500. Wedding gifts for his cousins, $300. Clothes, shoes, watches for him, each item costing hundreds. And then the endless gifts I bought for his freeloading relatives, collectively adding up to nearly $15,000. Every line item had a receipt, every transfer documented, every purchase photographed. Compared to the petty $3,000 he demanded I return, what I had spent was more than 5 times greater. The reaction online was instant and explosive. Comment sections lit up with disbelief and fury. "Oh my God, Kevin isn't just stingy, he's a full-on parasite," one wrote. "He nickel and dimed his girlfriend over bottled water while blowing through her money like it was nothing. This man flipped faster than a pancake." Another chimed in, "I can't believe men like this exist." He not only demanded back the engagement dowry, but also tried to claim the car she bought. Greedy doesn't even begin to cover it. Soon Kevin's personal details leaked. Strangers found his number and flooded his phone with calls until he had to shut it off. The scandal snowballed so quickly that even his employer couldn't stand the embarrassment. Within days, Kevin was fired. The man who had set out to win sympathy from the internet had dug himself a grave instead. As the chaos spun further out of control, Kevin finally broke his silence. In the middle of the night, my phone buzzed with frantic messages. "Vivian, please stop. You're going too far. Do you really want to destroy me? Delete your post, I'm begging you. We were together for 3 years. Must you be this cruel? Do you want me to die before you're satisfied?" I read his words and laughed bitterly. When he dragged me to the police, when he called me a thief, when he painted me as a greedy woman, did he remember those 3 years? Now that the tide had turned, he suddenly wanted mercy. Too bad for him, I wasn't about to play the fool twice. Without a second thought, I screenshot his messages, added my own caption, and posted them publicly. So this is what happens when the public turns against Kevin Lee. Suddenly, he blames women. Still no accountability, still no lesson learned. The post spread like wildfire, the ridicule reaching new heights. Unbelievable. He started the fight, but when he got hit back, he collapsed into tears. Classic predator behavior, a tiger when attacking a helpless kitten when bleeding. Another comment went viral. "If you can't take the heat, don't set the fire." By morning, my post was trending at the very top across social media. Kevin begged me to delete it. That was never going to happen. Days later, his messages turned into desperate bargaining. "Vivian, what do you want? Didn't we agree those gifts were mine? Why are you counting every penny now? I never planned to demand repayment. Why are you ruining me? I lost my job. My reputation is gone. Are you satisfied? Let's just call it even. No more debts. Each of us goes our own way." I didn't even reply. Instead, I took another screenshot and posted it with a single line. "Call it even. Who asked you for mercy? You will pay. If you don't, I'll call the police myself." With public humiliation mounting and legal threats looming, Kevin could no longer wriggle free. His family scrambled, desperately borrowing money from anyone who would listen. Eventually, they scraped together the full amount they owed me, not just the original $10,000 dowry, but an additional $600 in interest. Watching Mrs. Lee's face contort with misery as the funds left her account felt like reclaiming every ounce of dignity they had tried to steal from me. I thought perhaps this was the end. Surely with their pride shattered and their pockets emptied, the Lees would finally disappear. But I had underestimated their shamelessness. Kevin resurfaced brazen as ever. One morning he marched straight into my office building, his face pale, but his eyes still full of entitlement. "Vivian," he declared, his voice trembling, but determined we agreed. The dowry was $10,000. Now it's returned. I swear on my life I will never ask for it again. So we can get married now, right? We can still go through with the wedding." I smiled sweetly, then drove the heel of my stiletto straight down on Kevin's foot. "That money was your debt to me. It has nothing to do with the dowry. And as for marriage, I wouldn't marry a penny-pinching man like you if I were blind. In fact, it's not just me, no woman in the world would ever want you." With that, I deliberately scraped the heel across the floor, as if I had just stepped on something filthy. His parents reacted instantly, throwing themselves into a full-blown performance. They collapsed on the office floor, wailing as if the heavens had betrayed them. Our poor son, Mrs. Lee, shrieked, tricked and ruined by this wicked woman. He's left with nothing. "Leaders of this company, you must fire her at once. She's a disgrace. She's probably been sleeping with other men behind his back. She destroyed his job, destroyed his marriage, destroyed his life. We might as well die right here and now." With that, both Mr. and Mrs. Lee lunged toward my desk, banging their heads dramatically against its edge. My coworkers froze in horror, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene or dial 911. I lifted a hand to stop them. I knew better. Calling the police now would only get the Lees escorted out temporarily. They would be back tomorrow with an even bigger scene. If I wanted this circus to end, I needed to play a longer game, so I shifted gears, my voice softened, trembling as though in fear. "Please, Mr. and Mrs. Lee, get up. This isn't the place for this kind of scene. There are so many people watching, it won't look good for anyone. Let's calm down and talk this through. As long as you don't come to my company again, I'll do my best to meet your demands." Their eyes lit up. They exchanged a quick glance, sensing victory, and straightened with newfound authority. Mrs. Lee sneered, "Oh, so now you're scared. Why didn't you think of the consequences earlier? Our family isn't unreasonable, but since you and my son have no future, at least you owe him compensation. You cost him his job, his reputation. What do you plan to do about that?" I lowered my gaze, feigning shame, fumbling with my wallet. "I really don't have much left. My account has only $15,000 in it. It's all I have. Please, I beg you, let's put an end to this." They hadn't expected such a large sum. Their eyes widened, gleaming like headlights. 15,000, fine. That will do. Consider it repayment for my son's youth. If you refuse, don't blame us for raising hell. We'll protest here at your parents' house, even at their workplace. We've lost everything. Don't think for a second we'll hesitate to drag you down with us." Mrs. Lee's face twisted into a grotesque snarl, meant to intimidate me. I gasped, trembling, and clutched my wallet tighter. All right. Just please don't go near my parents. I'll give you the money now if you promise to stop harassing me." My performance was flawless panic painted across my face, my voice breaking under the weight of false fear. But beneath the act, my mind was razor sharp. $15,000 was no small sum. Enough to buy me more than peace. It was enough to send them to prison if I played this right. So I insisted on drafting a written agreement. It stated clearly that once they accepted the money, they would never again harass or contact me. Too blinded by greed to notice the trap, Mr. and Mrs. Lee snatched up the pen and scribbled their names, even pressing their fingerprints into the page, as though sealing their fate. Only Kevin hesitated. After being burned by my tricks more than once, unease flickered across his face. Kevin's unease finally slipped through. "Mom, maybe we should think this over. Vivian isn't the type to cave this easily. Something's off." His voice was low, hesitant, but Mrs. Lee was far too blinded by greed to hear reason. She cut him off with a sharp wave of her hand. "Think about what? The money is practically in our hands. Stop hesitating. You lost your job. We have no income, and now you're second-guessing cash that's falling straight into our laps. Don't tell me you still have feelings for that girl." Her tone was dripping with contempt, and before Kevin could respond, she snatched the pen, slammed it onto the page, and pressed her fingerprint with such force it nearly tore the paper. I didn't waste another moment. As soon as the signatures were dry, I calmly transferred $15,000 into Kevin's account. Their phones buzzed simultaneously, the notification tone like a victory bell to them. The Lees beamed with joy, their faces alight with triumph, as if they had pulled off the con of the century. Without another glance back, they strutted out of my office as though they had won. The second the door closed, I picked up my phone, my expression steady, and dialed the police. When the NYPD officers arrived, the irony of it all was almost laughable. Not long ago, the Lees had dragged me into the precinct, accusing me of extortion over a $10,000 dowry. Now, in the blink of an eye, the tables had turned and they stood as the accused. Even the officers couldn't help but shake their heads, barely concealing their smirks. What is this? First you sue her, now you're being sued. Do you people just enjoy coming down to the station? Kevin sat silently, his head hung low, his face pale. He knew he'd walked right into my trap. His parents, however, still hadn't caught on. They wailed and protested, their voices echoing through the room. Officer, how can this be extortion? She gave us the money voluntarily. Look, there's even a signed contract. But the very contract they waved so proudly was the knife that cut their throats. The language was clear. They accepted the money under the condition that they would stop harassing me. That clause turned their greed into undeniable evidence of coercion. The officers' expressions hardened. This is extortion, plain and simple. You used threats to obtain money. The law couldn't be clearer. The verdict came swiftly. The $15,000 was confiscated and returned to me. More importantly, formal charges were filed. Kevin, identified as the ringleader, was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His parents, as willing accomplices, each received 3. And just like that, the nightmare that had shadowed me for months was over. I severed every tie to that deranged family. My parents and I decided to leave New York altogether, settling in a new city where the ghosts of the Lees could no longer reach us. We didn't know what those 3 lunatics might attempt after their release, but we refused to live in fear of them. Once free from that toxic entanglement, I made another choice. I poured everything I had endured into words, transforming my ordeal into a novel. I shared it online, and to my surprise, it spread like wildfire. Women from across the country flooded my inbox with messages of gratitude. They told me my story had opened their eyes, that it helped them recognize the ugly truths behind selfish, miserly men who only sought to take without ever giving. I realized then that my suffering had meaning. If my voice could save even one woman from falling into the same trap, it was worth every tear. And so I wrote more, hoping that my lessons could become their shield. Because here is what I now believe with every fiber of my being. When choosing a partner, a woman must see clearly. Never settle for crumbs disguised as love. Every woman in this world is a jewel of immeasurable worth. She deserves a life filled with respect, devotion, and yes, abundance. That is the legacy I wanted to leave, not just a cautionary tale, but a declaration. We are priceless, and we should never apologize for demanding love that honors that truth. So subscribe to City with me if you want to hear more stories like mine. Because every story, even the painful ones, carries a lesson that can light someone else's path.